Virginia City's elevation is 6,220 feet above sea level. Now that just happens to be the same mean elevation as Lake Tahoe.
И вот мы едем на такой вот интересный трактор. И там сидит мужик. И вот так люди. И 20 минут будет наше путешествие.
Now, if you look to the left, on the street above, that's Piper's Opera House. That's the third opera house built in Virginia City. First two burnt down. All of the theatrical stars of the era
Вот этот
played
Silver
on the
Queen.
Piper's Opera House.
Вот этот отель.
Also
О,
on
я
the
ж не
left right
видела,
here
что
we have the Silver Queen Saloon and Hotel.
А мы в нем обедали.
Painted on the wall in the back portion of the saloon.
Знаменитый
She
Silver
has
Queen,
3,261
которому
real silver dollars attached to her dress.
125 лет.
And I'll show you the significance of that number a little later on in the tour. Well, things got started around here about 1850. Folks were following the Carson River east of here on their way to the California gold fields. Now, when they stopped to camp at night, they started practicing their painting techniques in the river. Well, they started seeing a little bit of
Что он там говорит?
gold.
Вот
A few
здесь
people
останавливались
stayed
по
on.
дороге
Over
к
the next several
золотым
years, they made their way up the mountain here and had a little mining camp.
залежам.
Now, I didn't have a name, though, but the story has it that a miner from Virginia was on his way back to his cabin one night with a bottle of whiskey. He fell and broke that bottle. Though his friends laughed, he just dusted himself
Вот он
off.
кусок
Said, "I
золота и
christened
мужик.
Virginia." Nobody
Шахтер.
objected, the name stuck. Right here on our right, we have the Way It Was Museum. They do have some of the better displays up here on how the mining operations were conducted in the 1800s. Plus a pretty good bit on how the folks lived up here. File a claim.
1850.
1850-е годы вот здесь все дома были
Now
построены.
he introduced himself as Henry
Они так и
Comstock.
сохранились.
Вот эти домики, которые мы видим, построены в 1850 году.
850-х.
850.
But the miners didn't know
О,
it.
ювелир.
They did talk it over though and decided to form a partnership. They opened up the Ophir mine. Now it didn't take them too long though before they figured out that Comstock was not only a liar but a bit of a bragger. Yeah, he went down to Carson City. Started telling the people in Carson City that he discovered gold up here on the mountain. Well, they started calling it Comstock's gold. Now, lie or not, the name stuck. This whole area.
Вот это место
As we pass by
Комсток.
the rest area, off to
здесь
the
было
far
найдено
right, you can
золото.
see the Silver Terrace Cemetery. We'll be getting a little better view of that here on this lower street. The Silver Terrace is made up of a number of different sections, including a Catholic, a Protestant, a Knights of Pythias, an Oddfellows, a Masons. They have a railroader section there, a miners section, a fireman section. You know, they even have a little Irish
Кладбище вон
section in
вдалеке.
there. Now, all in all,
Section.
though, we do have more than
Это
15
отделы, да?
cemeteries right here in the Virginia
Части
City
города.
area. Most, by the way, are located right there in that Silver Terrace. And it is open for walking tours. We do have a few more. To the left, over across the canyon there, you can see that great tailing pile. On the other side of that tailing pile, we have a Chinese cemetery. Down the bottom of the canyon there, and up about a quarter of a mile, there's a Jewish cemetery. Now, we do, however, mention one more. You see, in the 1800s, just up the street here, we had a red light district. Well, one of the ladies that worked there's name was Julia Bullet. Now, Julia Bullet, she was brutally robbed and murdered one night. The firemen, though, they did think a lot of Julia. Yeah, they even wanted to bury her in their section of the cemetery. Ladies of the town, however, objected. And while there was a short fight and two grave sites, the firemen did lose that argument. They ended up burying Julia over across the canyon. Her grave site's about halfway up the hillside. We do have a little white picket fence around it. You might even be able to pick that out over there amongst the trees. There is, however, a little more to the story. You see, the firemen, they didn't take Julia out of town quietly. No, sir. They organized a parade down the main drag. Yeah, they had 15 wagons, a marching band, all the fire companies of Virginia City and Gold Hill, all gathered together taking Julia out of town for one last ride. I kind of think that parade might have had a little message in it to the wives, too. But I'm not sure about that part. Now, getting back to McLaughlin, O'Reilly, and Comstock, and that Ophir mine, they worked that mine for a short period of time, found an opportunity, and sold it for $45,000. Now, that was a lot of money in the 1860s. Yeah, they left town quite happy. Their smiles didn't last, so no, sir. You see, the new owners of the mine, while mining that gold, they were removing the blue clay. Some claim they even paved the streets with that clay. One of the miners, he took a sample down to Grass Valley, California. Nevada City down there had an assay office.
Короче говоря, нифига не понимаю.
They found out that that blue clay was worth about $900 a ton in gold, over $3,000 a ton in silver. And that's not today's standards either, no sir. That's when gold was $20 an ounce, silver $1 an ounce. But it was the start of the big bonanza up here on the Comstock. Folks came up here by the thousands. Some just looking for work. Others came up here to seek their fortunes.
Он говорит, что унция золота стоила $20.
Nevada City, California. He made a fortune in the mines. His son, William Randolph, used some of that money to start the Hearst newspaper dynasty and the eventual building of the Hearst Castle over in California.
А что это? Что?
Now, right up here on our left, this flat area was the Virginia and Truckee Railroad Yard. The V&T Railroad was known as Queen of the Short Lines. It was in operation from 1869 to 1939 between Virginia City and Carson City. At one time, they had 22 steam locomotives operating between 40 and 45 trips a day. In 1872, they opened up a spur from Carson City to Reno to tie in with the Central Pacific Railroad. That spur stayed in operation until 1950. This red building on our left is the old freight depot. I'll show you the ticket office a little further up here into the tour.
Это было здесь как бы фрейт депо,
On the right side of the trolley, these blocks along here were known as the Red Light District. There the ladies worked in little cabins that were referred to as cribs, as in baby cribs. Now if you look down the hill to the left, you can see a large tan tailing pile. That comes from the Consolidated California and Virginia mines. The Virginia was the largest mining operation on the Comstock. They mined $110 million worth of gold and silver. In the late 1800s, well, we had more than 22 mines in operation. They dug over 750 miles of shaft strips and tunnels underneath Virginia City and Gold Hill. Many still stand today, being held up by timbers brought over from the Lake Tahoe Basin. Yellow building on the left's the Comstock History Center, and the window is the Dayton number 18 steam locomotive. Right over here on our right, we have a monument to the Red Light District. A little more on there about Judy Paulette's murder, to a little bit about who done it. Now down the hill to the left, you can see a multi-story brick building with the white borders. That's St. Mary Louise's Hospital. That was run by the Sisters of Charity in the late 1800s. It remained a hospital until the early 1940s. Now an arts center.
Слева где-то была в долине больница,
We
госпиталь.
also do have a number of hotels, motels, and bed and breakfasts with very comfortable accommodations right here in the Virginia City Gold Hill area. Some of them might even entertain you with a little
Ну
late night
красивая.
adventures.
Ну что скажешь?
We have two churches over here on the left.
Две,
The tan church is St. Paul's Episcopal Church.
Я бы
The
хотела.
red brick St. Mary's in the mountains. That was Nevada's first Catholic church.
Святого Павла, да?
1875 destroyed both previous churches. They were quickly rebuilt, however. But when they rebuilt St. Paul's, they didn't use any nails in the framing. It's all held together with wooden pegs. When they rebuilt St. Mary's, they had more than 4,000 parishioners. And that church was rebuilt to the size you see today. St. Mary's will be open until 5 o'clock for self-guided tours. They have a gift shop, a free museum, and the monks' wine cellar downstairs. St. Paul's is not open at this time. building in front of us here was
Это
the
не
rectory
работает,
for
наверное,
St.
да?
Mary's.
Да, что за-
It's now a private residence. Now right up ahead on the right is the B&T Passenger Depot.
Даже музей
They
есть.
are operating a tourist train between Virginia City and Gold Hill. It's about a 35-minute narrated tour. Last train of the day, though, did leave at 4 o'clock.
Что, 35
Now,
минут
weekends
сюда?
throughout the summer, they also operate the long line, picking up folks at the Eastgate Station in Carson City and bringing them up here. This yellow building on our right is that ticket office that I mentioned
Короче говоря, в
earlier.
4 часа последний вот такой
Recently
трамвайчик
brought back by the railroad,
обвозит
it's now the
желающих,
ticket office again.
провозит их по достопримечательностям Вирджиния-Сити.
Alrighty, now as we pull up here, if you look to the right on the street above, you'll see a brick building with a white porch surrounding it and a nice tall chimney. That's the Mackey Age. John Mackey came to
Это вот
Virginia City, began work as a
4 часа,
miner.
можно сесть и
But
прокатиться.
John Mackey, James Flood, James Fair, and William O'Brien became known as the Silver Kings.
Вот кто хочет,
John
пожалуйста,
Mackey outlived his three partners.
приезжайте, катайтесь.
He was worth in excess of $80 million.
А чё миллион долларов?
In Reno has the Mackey School of Mines bearing his name. That's one of the last few mining
Знак
colleges left in this
ар-ар.
country.
Что
His
это?
granddaughter married songwriter Lee Berlin back in the 1920s.
Сдала экзамен, видишь? Вот он.
They have an operating mining museum. They are closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, though. If you look to the left across the canyon, you can see that tailing pile
музей
over
вот
there.
этого
The gray building, the concrete and steel head frame. That's the combination mine. The combination mine was the deepest mine in
Можно посетить
Virginia
шаг,
City.
да?
It goes down
музей.
3,261 feet. The silver dollars that I mentioned earlier at the
Кроме
$1
вторника и
tribute to
среды
that mine.
можно в шахту опуститься и, наверное, добывать серебро. Вот здесь.
Temperatures reached up to 140 degrees
Это ихние
Fahrenheit.
машинки, смотри.
The miners, they could only work for about 10 minutes at a time while being sprayed with water and chewing on ice. They could take a 20-minute break before going back to work. They operated 3 8-hour shifts, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. The miners didn't complain much. After all, they were some of the best paid
чё тут?
miners in the country. They made
Каждая
$4 a
смена
day.
была, 3
Most
смены
miners
работали,
made
и каждая
about
смена
$1 a day.
заплатилась
Over on the far
$10.
left, we have the B&T
За смену.
maintenance yard. That is the site of the original maintenance yard for the
$8
B&T
платили за
Virginia
смену,
City.
когда
And it's
работали
not open at all for tours.
добытчики.
Right below us, also on the left, is the Collar Mine. The Collar Mine was the 5th largest mine on the Comstock. They mined $17 million worth of gold and silver. They're open daily from 1 to 4 for guided underground tours.
равнялось 17 миллионов долларов, равнялось то серебро, которое они выработали.
За всю жизнь?
За то время, когда
Да, ага.
как долго это, я не так и не знаю.
Да. Ну вот, кое-что Раушан тут мне говорит. Не знаю, слышно было или нет, что 17 миллионов долларов. 17 миллионов долларов
The red building with the gray
стоило
roof on
то
the right
серебро,
is
но
the
такую
Collar
сумму они
Mansion.
добыли.
That was the mining office
те
and
времена.
the residence for the owners of the mine in the 1800s. And then we have the 4th Ward School. It was built in 1875. It has 4 floors and 14 classrooms, built to accommodate over 1,000 students. It is one of the first schools in the West to have forced air heat, water fountains on all 4 floors in 1936, due in part to the open pit mine to our left. It is one of the last schools of its kind in this country and is open daily for tours.
14 классных комнат было всего в этой школе.
Ну видишь? Ага, сколько здесь было жителей раньше? 30 тысяч было, а теперь 700.
Between here and the cemetery and up and down the side of the mountain, 2000. We had 109 saloons, 50 dry goods stores, including a Tiffany's outlet, 35 hotels and boarding houses, 22 restaurants, 6 churches, 5 schools, and 17 breweries.
22
We also
ресторана здесь.
imported about 300 tons of whiskey a year.
Три-
The gold and silver from the Comstock altered the monetary standards of the world, fostered many new industries,
300
helped
тонн
build San
виски в год
Francisco in the 1800s,
выпиваются здесь
helped
туристами.
rebuild San Francisco after the 1906 earthquake and fire. On October 31st,
Ах,
1864,
было? Так сейчас
Nevada was admitted to the
нет.
Union.
Ай,
Put your leg in there,
Люди
partner.
очень не те.
Hey, leg inside.
Сейчас люди слабые, не могут выпить столько. Я вчера выпила только 2 рюмочки коньяка.
Nevada was admitted to the Union as the 36th state, doing no small part to the gold and silver of the Comstock. The senators were necessary for ratifying the 13th Amendment. After the Civil War was over, Ulysses S. Grant came out here to this building right here on our right. That's the Savage Mansion. He spoke from the second floor balcony, thanking the folks of the Comstock for their help in the North winning the Civil War. Now mining office, they don't open it up at all for tours. Just up ahead here, we like to tell the story of a couple of miners who got into a little argument. One miner purchased a piece of property, began building his home. When a second found out about it, he bought the adjacent property. When the first miner was just about finished, the second moved his house from the other end of town.
Ну,
He
это
said, I'm going to put my house so close to that man's house that he'll not be able to enjoy the cool breezes of summer or the warming sun in the winter. Now take a look out the right side of the trolley at the
Ой,
red
эти
and white
типа,
houses on the street below. As we pass by, look between them and see how close together they are.
шахтеры, да, или? Ну, не
I like to
шахтеры, они
think
вот
that miner
добытчики.
accomplished
Они
his mission. We call
поспорили
them
между
the
собой,
spite
построили дома,
houses.
вот, и один
Yeah, would you believe they had a girlfriend
левее
involved in that little
построили, другой
argument?
сказал, я так свой
The
дом
Chapin
близко
house right here is the
построил,
last of the old
он
boarding
смог
houses,
наслаждаться
built around
бризом,
1862. Down below the front side of the Mackey Mansion that I mentioned earlier. And it is open, well, it should be open till about 5 o'clock, yeah, for tours. On the left, on the street above, are 2 tan buildings. That's the carriage house and the castle. The carriage house was rebuilt several years ago, using all the original specifications. They even brought in square nails from Pennsylvania. The castle itself was built in 1868. It was modeled after a castle in France, thus the name. All of the furnishings were purchased in Europe, brought around the Horn to the Bay Area, and up to Virginia City by wagon. They have silver doorknobs there, and a number of silver fixtures throughout the house. They did shut it down to tours a few years
Да,
ago. First Presbyterian Church on our left was built in
Presbyterians
1866.
В 1867
And the
году
next
заложено.
13 buildings down to the intersection were spared that fire of 1875.
Смотри свой
Yeah, late
магазин.
one night in October of 1875. A miner living in a boarding house a couple blocks up
Tahoe House.
knocked over an oil lamp and started a fire. It was a very windy night, as we've been known to have up here on the Comstock. By morning, that fire had destroyed 80% of the businesses, more than 1,000 homes, and the churches, as I mentioned earlier. But it was, after all, the heyday of Virginia City. Within a few months, they were rebuilt back in operation. Over here on the left is the old Washoe Club. It was said to have the Millionaires Club on the second floor. At one time, they claimed 184 members. They're open for ghost tours. Also on the left, the Ponderosa Saloon and Mine Tour. The miners in the back portion of the saloon. They'll take you into one of the old towns of Virginia City.
Эй!
That's also the old Bank of California building. And they have the vault in there. Don't lock anybody into one thing we didn't get was the combination. Now the last building right up here on the right is the Territorial Enterprise. That was Nevada's first newspaper. Samuel Clemens came out here in
Вот Марк Твен тоже
1862.
сегодня.
He found work there as a
Нет.
Это казино, казино.
all about the
Да,
Comstock.
поиграть
And
надо.
the name Mark Twain. He lived here less than 2 years. The story has it that he got into a fight with a man and challenged that man to a duel. Well, dueling was illegal, even up here on the Comstock in the 1800s.
Все?
And a number of Mark Twain's friends talked him into leaving town. Yeah, I was told that was a good idea. They did say Mark Twain was a lousy shot. The Delta across the street invites you in. In the back portion, they have the suicide table. They have a letter on the wall telling you why they call it the suicide table, and a little bit about the game of Pharaoh that was played on that table. Bucket of Blood invites you in. They say that was such a rowdy bar in the old days that when they mucked it out in the morning, the mop bucket was red from the previous night's fights. That's a little iffy on that one. Now, if you look to the street above the Delta, that building up there is the Story County Courthouse, built in 1876. Lady Justice up on that second floor balcony is not blindfolded. One of the few justices left in this country not blindfolded.
1876 высоко, да? Здание суда.
Of which Virginia City is a part of, and does have business also open throughout the week. I want to thank you for riding with me today. If you wait, I'll come around and get stool down for you. Help anybody that may need it.
Thank you so much.